Hey Orchinistas, welcome back to the channel Forever Orchids. My name is Tracy, and today I decided to repot an orchid. Why not? Got lots of roots on it. Why not? I've got it soaking here in some water, and this is Catatonia. Why not? So, why not repot it? Well, one of the reasons maybe not to repot it is it's wintertime. And most of the time you do not repot your orchids in the winter. But would you look at the new roots growing on this plant? Look at them. Look at all those roots. Look at all those roots down there. And we're still dripping some water. Plus, I've got a new growth coming out here. So I'm really hoping that we're going to be okay to repot this. I really hope so. So we're going to get it out of the pot together, and I'm going to put it in a clay pot, about a 4.5-inch clay pot coming out of the 4-inch pot. This plant I got back in May at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, at one of the hardware stores there. This is a better grow or a bag baby that I got. And I'm just looking at the condition of the leaves here. Hadn't noticed that little black tip right there. This grows under lights, right back over here, over my shoulder. We'll get this little towel here to put down here for all this dripping. Okay, so I don't mind being a little messy. We're just going to dump this out. Now, I've soaked it, like I said, and I'm just kind of squeezing around the pot here, loosening up any of the media. And I am going to grab just a big plastic pot here, container. A lot of times I will use these here to water my orchids in. I can get a lot of them in here at one time and let them soak. But right now we're just going to use this to empty out all the media that's down in here. One of the things that I'm learning, this is really the previous video that I just did repotting Cattleya Dinard Blue Heaven, as well as this now, and I did have to repot another one of the bag babies. I'm learning that they are using styrofoam, just cut up styrofoam in the bottom of their pots. It's okay. It just doesn't really work that well in my growing environment. Now I do have a new root here that is attaching to a piece of the styrofoam. Also, I am noticing as I'm getting down into this, look right here. Look down in here. You see that right there? That is a plug of sphagnum moss. Now, on the tag, this says Catatonia Why Not? It's the red version, and it has a date on it of 11/18/20. So I'm assuming that that's maybe when it was repotted. So we're good to get it out of this media. It's been 2 years, 3. It's been 3 years now that it potentially has been in this pot and in this media. Okay, I'm just with my hands here, just gently teasing. Doesn't look like I'm gently, but I am teasing out any of the media that I can. Any of the media that is stuck, we're going to go in and pry off those roots. I'll just take my little tag here. Well, that one just came off anyway. And this one, I might just leave this one. This is a big piece of bark here, and look at all the roots that are attached to it. So instead of disturbing all of these roots, unless I can just try pushing with my hand, but they're stuck, so I'm not going to really worry about that too much. I do want to get the rest of this styrofoam out, And I do have a new root right here with a green tip on it that is stuck to that. Actually, okay, I have found out we have a root that is grown. Wow. I've got a root that has grown down into the styrofoam and gone through it. Look at that right there in between. Hopefully you can see that. Woo. See how this one's attached? It's got a root growing down in the center of it. All right, I was able to get a lot of that out. I'm just going to tear apart the styrofoam here to release that root from the styrofoam. Okay, we're good with that now. Got the styrofoam out. Any other bark that I can get up down in here, I'm just going to pull those out. Being mindful of all these new root tips. I don't want to break any of them. Okay, that is pretty good here. Kind of teasing the roots here with my fingers, just kind of rubbing my fingers together like this, just to see if I can get any more of that bark to fall out. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty good. There's not a lot of dead roots in here. Some of them we can just pick out with our hands. We don't necessarily have to get the torch and sterilize our pruning shears. I do want to get way up in here as much as I can and get this sphagnum plug out if that's been in there for 3 years. Okay, so I'm good. I'm happy with that. That's good enough. Move that out of the way here now. And like I said, we're going to put it down in this clay pot here. This here is going to be the back of my plant, and this is the front of it. When we refer to the front and the back of an orchid, we basically mean the growth pattern of the rhizome. And this is on the catatonia here, the rhizome is very short. The bulbs are pretty much growing up right beside of each other. So this is what is also would be considered a compact cattleya. So with this new growth here being the front, I want to have as much space between the front and the side of the pot to give this plant room to move and grow. So with this being the back, I'm going to put that up against the back of the pot as best I can and being mindful of these root tips right here, okay? And I think what we could do is we could go to the overhead camera now so that you can see down into the plant and you can keep your eyes on these roots as well as me keeping an eye on them. Now, before I do that, what we're going to plant it in is some orchiata bark. I've also got some permatil. Now, I just recently bought this. I just opened the bag. I'm a little disappointed. This is much, much smaller permatil than what I am used to having seen over the decades. I've got an orchid now, a cattleya, that's growing in a much larger form of permatil. What this is expanded slate. And so it's an inorganic material. So you can grow your orchids in inorganic material as long as you are giving them some nutrients with fertilizing and you're not just giving them water in a total inorganic media. Then they're not getting any nutrients if you do that. But we can use things like lava rock in our pots, permatil. This another name for it is stay-lite. I just now that I found this at a local garden store, I'm going to have to see if we can get any bigger. This would be really good for seedlings. This plant is still relatively young. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this or not. Plus, I've got some sphagnum moss to mix in with my bark. We could also use perlite and charcoal in the mix if I wanted to. I've got some of that. I don't have a real hard rule of this is the bark mixture that I use and that's it. No, whatever I feel like, whatever I've got on hand is fine to use. So let me change the camera angle now and get you overhead so you can look down into the pot and see these roots while we go ahead and plant up Catatonia. Why not? Now this will be so much better for you to see. So I think what I'm going to do, we've got a hole down here in the pot here. So I'm going to take a little bit of bark and put on the bottom here. That'll somewhat cover up the hole. It's going to allow drainage, but if I decide to use this stay light here, this permatil, then it will just keep that from falling out of the hole. Okay, alrighty. So let me show you how we're going to. Got a pretty floppy little leaf here. Okay, remember I said this is the front, so I'm going to put this portion here towards the back. Being mindful of some of these root tips here, I can gently move them out of the way and I can get the plant like this. Get some of these roots down and then tilt it so that these roots right here will go down into the media like this. Okay, so I'm going to tilt it back up this way so I can get some bark down in here. Kind of fill in some of those roots that are growing down there. I think there was a piece of cork down in there too. Not going to hurt anything. There's a bigger piece of cork if I wanted to use that. I think what I'm going to do is I'll end up top dressing. I'm just going to, just because I've got it here with me, I'm just going to do all bark in this. And then I'll top dress with some sphagnum moss to give some moisture on the top here for these new root tips to start heading down into the pot. Get a little bit of bark here in the back. Oh, just since we have it here and I got a small space, we can put a little bit of the stay light here. Stay light or permatil is actually used in the gardening industry as a vole block. V-O-L-E, the little rodent voles that can get into your gardening spaces and get into your bulbs and things like that. You can actually plant put this in and plant your bulbs in the ground, and it is supposed to help the voles from getting to your tulips or any of your other bulbs. All right, that was some smaller bark that was left over in there. Okay, let me get some larger bark now. I actually have some right here. I've got some Orchiata Premium. It's 12 to 18 millimeter. It's their Power Plus bark that I've got. And I'm just going to use that. Put some more in here. Getting close to the top of the pot. Now notice what I did when I planted this plant is I've got the rhizome here and the new growth. I've got those above the pot just ever so slightly instead of burying it down. By keeping that lifted up off the pot and off the top of the pot, above the top of the pot, I should say, I've got less chance of water remaining in the rhizome here and getting into the new sheaths that grow around the new bulbs here and preventing rot by keeping this elevated up off the top of my media. Okay. All right, I've got some sphagnum moss that I've got soaking over here in some sea kelp extract. So I'm going to squeeze it out. And sphagnum moss holds an awful lot of water. I want you to try to see how much water comes out of this. I'm just going to get a ball here in my hand. And then I'm going to squeeze it. And I mean, it's just running everywhere. Sphagnum moss holds so much moisture. I plant my Phalaenopsis in sphagnum moss in plastic pots. And a lot of times I don't have to water my plants for a month. that are planted in sphagnum moss. I just keep an eye on the sphagnum moss, and I keep an eye on the roots and the plant itself, and make sure that the sphagnum moss is dried out so that I don't rot my roots. Okay, I've got one little root here that's still kind of coming up a little bit. It's coming over the top of another root here. So I'm going to just gently, because can you see right here how green this is? That's very pliable. That's where I just watered and had the orchid soaking. So that allows me to push down gently on those root tips and have them start to grow down into the media. And around the edges here, I'm just going to push down where I had that bark and get that bark to push down, go down a little bit further. Need a little bit more back here. I want this plant to feel secure in its environment and it to be stable. Okay. I've got some of these back bulbs here. I don't want to bury them. I do need to get some more media down in here. Let's put a little bit of this. A little bit of the rock, a little bit. Okay. Okay. Now when I shake, other than the leaves here, when I shake the plant, there's no movement at the rhizomes and at the bulbs. It's not wiggling in the pot, so this plant is going to feel secure, and it should continue to grow and push out these roots here. And go on down in there. Now this little root here, I broke the vellum on it by accident. It will be fine. We'll just push it out a little bit more instead of angling it the way I had it, and that will seal up a little bit. Might have a little brown spot right there, but it will be fine and it won't bother the plant. Okay, so that is Catatonia. Why not? Like I said, why not repot it? It had so many roots on it, and it has new growth on it. Even though it's in the winter time, we're going to hope for the best and keep an eye on this one. It grows under lights, which is probably why we had such massive growth right now on it. And plus we're indoors. I've got a hygrometer, so I'll be able to test now what actually is my temperature and what is actually my humidity. I'm having trouble with the humidity right now in this grow space. I've got 3 humidifiers running at all times, 24/7, and I am still having trouble keep maintaining a good humidity level. If it's rainy outside, I can have 60 to 65% humidity inside. If it's dry outside, it'll drop to 15% in here. I can't seem to get it to stabilize, and I may have to caulk around the windows here, but this is a rental house, so I'm trying not to have to do a bunch of stuff like that, but I might just have to. So until next time, guys, happy orchid growing. Remember, please like and subscribe to the channel if you wish, and stay up so you can get those notifications and stay updated on all of my orchids. Until next time, guys, happy orchid growing. Bye.